Now, what would you say if someone wanted to start and will carve out getting a second job at Coles or whatever, or Bunnings or Overtime, will carve that out? Because for people that want to make more money doing a second job, just go and find one tomorrow and start earning more money to get your goals sooner. Pretty simple.
Yeah.
But if people have a genuine talent, craft or trade where they want to do something on the side to turn it into a business, or even for a couple of years until we get to our goal, we need to look at how to start. So part of that will need to be an ABN. But talk to us, and there's going to be an episode that will go up on Missy's business, and it's a real-life case study. You know her. She's, I think, in allied health in Melbourne, wants to start her own business. You know, we're going to answer the questions that she has, but broadly speaking, let's pick something. What's a good example that we could pick for starting a business on the side that we will need to declare income for?
We could use my example when I was...
Photography?
Yeah, so I was working as a marketing coordinator.
Yep.
And I was doing product photography on the weekends.
So the first thing we do, obviously nail your thing. Work out what you want to do.
Yep.
Also, are you good at it?
Yeah.
Because if you suck at something, maybe don't put all your energy into doing that.
Well, I didn't think about actually starting an ABN or anything like that until I had a couple of people ask me for photos. So I thought, okay, there's a demand for what I'm doing.
Yeah, well, the second thing would be kind of put the word out there.
Yep.
And that could be through your friend networks, family networks, and then maybe in tandem, it is setting up socials.
Yep.
So in this day and age, what would you say if someone wanted to do their day job? I'll use Ryan actually upstairs in my team. He's like, I want to do photography on the side, like Kayla. He knows how to shoot, does all that.
Yep.
What would someone like him do in terms of an online presence first?
I would set up your Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok.
Right.
That would, and it depends on the type of photography.
Yeah.
I should probably mention that.
Yeah.
I was doing product photography.
Yeah.
So that's where my target markets were. I was using Facebook for Facebook groups.
Yes.
Instagram, obviously, photography, Instagram. Yeah. Back in the day, TikTok didn't exist, but if I was doing it again, I would start a TikTok. But say you're doing headshots or event photography.
Could be LinkedIn.
LinkedIn,
okay.
Exactly. So I think it depends.
So you have to match your world where that's 101, where your future clients are hanging out. Yep. And it was funny, Rach Kroon from Sphere Home Loans, and who I'm writing this next book with, we're working on the book a couple of weeks ago, and her son was like year 7, 8, 9 or whatever, like said, texted, why aren't you on TikTok? And I'm like, tell him to call me, I'll tell him why This Is Property isn't on TikTok. You know, we want to go after people who, you know, most 45, 50-year-old people potentially who we want to serve, you know, a bit of equity and all that stuff, invest in properties, on balance aren't on TikTok.
This is for the book?
Well, just for like the This Is Property.
Oh, This Is Property, okay.
Like, why isn't? Because then you got to look at bandwidth. It's like we want to hang our hat on YouTube and probably Instagram.
Yeah. First homeowners, though, would be huge on TikTok.
Exactly.
So again, it's like what target market are you chasing?
But I was talking specifically for the current thing. So I think that's good to know. So then I think we want to talk about when we register an ABN, it will be a sole trader. So a sole trader, effectively, if you've got an ABN, and if you are watching this on YouTube, this year we're really trying to put more effort in.
And improve our handwriting.
Yeah, I'll try. So if you've got your main job there, and then you've got your side income there with an ABN, basically what happens is when you get paid, and I'll just put this box as a TFN, your main income falls onto your tax return, and then we pay tax and then our net income, right? When you've got an ABN under a sole trader, you could that same income falls under the same tax file number, ABN. It's the same entity. Tax is withheld, and then you spend the money. So it all falls on your own tax return. However, in the background, you can set up a separate bank account.
Yeah.
So we'll talk about that. So we want to find out where potential people that we serve are hanging out, and that will be in your natural vibe. We're going to organise an ABN, and I'll just quickly go there now. What I would recommend to people is to go to the Australian Government Australian Business Register website, because if you Google set up an ABN, right, there'll be like 5 options that are different companies that will charge you and gift wrap it for you, and in the back end plug it into the ATO's or the Australian Business Register. So I always encourage people to go direct to the Australian Business Register website, and then you can click apply for an ABN and do it there. You'll have to put in your tax file number, some details of the industry, and just prove that you are entitled to that ABN, because they don't just give them out. And if you haven't used it for a while, it will lapse over time.
Yeah.
So to be entitled to an ABN, you have to be carrying on or starting an enterprise in Australia, making supplies connected with Australia's indirect tax zone. Basically, far out, talk to me. That's bringing triggered legal stuff for me. Basically, in Australia, the indirect tax zone is basically anywhere in Australia that I think is like 60 kilometres outside the border of Australia. Within that 60 kilometres or whatever that is, that's where you charge GST. And the legal triggering that I had based on this was when I was getting paid income from the Spotify deal. And overseas income, because it was outside. Anyway, all that stuff. But all I'm saying on that, when you apply for an ABN, you'll be asked questions to help the ATO determine whether you are carrying on a business. So it's actually quite easy to get an ABN.
Yeah, this, again, they've made it seem really difficult, and they've used some big words, but it's quite easy to set up.
Yes. So now back to, before I went on that tangent, I was going to ask you about names.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason I went on this tangent with the ABN is because you're a sole trader, you could, or Ryan or Kayla, could go take photos, give them an invoice, and that document says at the top, Kayla Malss, Ryan, and your address.
Yeah.
And you put the ABN there.
Mm-hmm.
Or you could register a business name as part of the ABN, which could be Kayla's Photography.
Yeah, that's what I did.
It would be Kayla Malss trading as Kayla's Photography.
Yeah.
So you don't necessarily need a business name. So you can register a business name, but effectively when you create an ABN, it will be by default as a sole trader linked to your own personal name and tax file number.
Yep, that makes sense.
So having said that, what checks and balances would you do if someone wanted to do this, particularly if it was more as a short-term smash and grab? You might not worry about doing a name. You might just do all your LinkedIn, Instagram in your own account, right?
Yeah.
But if you're like, no, I want to build a business on the side, well, then we need to think about the names and whatnot.
Yeah, and I think something to consider is your current personal network. If I had a heap of friends with small businesses that might need photos, maybe it is worth me posting on my accounts to generate some inquiries coming through there rather than starting a whole new fresh account.
Yeah.
Back in the day when I had my side hustle, I personally just wanted to keep it separate.
Yep.
So that's what I did. I don't think there's a right or wrong. Probably just depends on, again, your goals for the side hustle, how long you want to have it, and if you want it to grow beyond you. And some people just might like having their own Instagram account, so they just might want to keep their personal life and professional life separate.
Yeah. So it's really actually easy to get started.
Yeah.
What I want to talk about is, and then I will say, and this probably does speak now to more of the tax and bank accounts, I would always recommend you set up a separate account for your ABN income. I was going to say, and you might even want to for your general side hustle income. So it's like if I'm working at Coles, all my money I'm earning going straight into this bank account.
Yeah,
a little separate pot.
Yeah.
Because we don't want the money going to our own general revenue.
Yeah, I agree.
So what I would say first and foremost, if you had your normal bank account system set up, and they could be offset accounts or just different savings account, set up another one. I want you to set up another 2 accounts. Why do you reckon 2?
You're going to test me?
Yeah.
One for spendings, one for savings, like a tax saving, putting...
One for income and
I
one...
shouldn't call it spendings, but yeah.
And one to, reserve money for tax.
Yeah. Kind of the ingoings and outgoings and having a savings account for...
Yes.
For tax.
Now, if we have a look at, and everyone can just do this at home, ATO tax rates, 2026. You will note that if you are earning, say, $45,000 to $135,000 at the moment in your job, you're effectively taxed at 30%. And this is where it can start to bite, and this is where working with a second job can bite hard in the first instance as well. So what I want you to do with your 2 bank accounts for your side hustle, and you're kind of right when you said spending.
That's how I set up. I just have a spendings and a savings.
Really? Yeah. So how I would do it, you can do it however you want, as long as you've got a detailed system. And the fact that you've got a detailed system for your venture means it's not a hobby, FYI. That first transactional account, and because it's an ABN linked to your personal name, the best thing to do when you set up a different bank account with your current bank or a new bank, don't worry about looking at business accounts and all that because it's a sole trade. It's your personal account.
Yeah.
We don't have a company here or anything like that. So
that was something that I spent so much time on because it was quite confusing, the difference between personal and business and all the different features you can get from business accounts. And I had, at the time, no idea what I was doing. I think I still ended up opening a business account, but it didn't have any functions on it. It was
So you mean an actual business account at the bank where it's a designated... You have to give them your ABN and all that. The reason I say don't do that is because it's just sometimes the fees on the account are higher for businesses, and because it's your own ABN, there's probably fine print everywhere that say you have to do that, but we're just getting started. We can change it later.
Exactly, yeah.
And then that account, what I want you to do, all income goes into that account. And all expenses relating to your side venture goes out of that account. So you've got a little mini cash hub just for that. Then what I want you to do, every time you are paid, you must transfer 30% as a good starting point, even 25 if you want to get really risque to potentially offset some expenses into a separate savings account for tax.
Yeah.
Because remember when a couple of slides ago, it's going to be your income from work, your side income. So what generally happens will be your work income less tax, your side income less tax, but in the background would probably be side income offsets from like you bought something for the side business, less tax equals the wash up at the end of the year. Now, the problem is during the year, you don't notice it. It's when you do your tax return. They're going to say, well, you earned $135K from your work. You earned $50K from your salary.
Or your side hustle.
Your side hustle, rather, or your second job. When it all washes up, we're taxing you because it's on your ABN, $185K. Now, they're going to say, well, based on your income and your side income, you have not withheld enough tax, aka we're sending you a bill. Then what will happen after you do your first tax return, after the first quarter after you do that, if you have generated an income and paid tax through your ABN, they will send you a quarterly PAYG withholding, I forget the actual terminology now, but effectively personal installments, an installment. So every
they
quarter.
Work out based on the first year, they forecast.
Yeah, so if you paid $12,000 of tax based on your side hustle, after the first year of your side hustle and ABN income, once it's triggered the system, they will then say, we want you to, based on last year, you paid $12,000 tax. Going forward, and they've got a formula, they'll say you have to pay installments of $3,100 because they do a little forecast that you're hopefully earning money.
So using this example of 135K, 50K, say photographer, 50K revenue came through the side hustle, but you spent 20K on a new camera, on your Adobe subscription, on all these expenses to help the side hustle run. Are you still taxed on the 50K?
No, they're basically how it kind of works is that 135 plus 50 revenue is 185 in total. Then what they do, they'll offset. So if for our main work, I went on a course and I paid $1,000, they would take that off. For my side hustle, I had $500 of subscriptions, $500 of travel. There's $2,000 in total across my job and my side hustle expenses. The taxable income is now 183.
Quick math.
Yeah, I'm like, what are we doing here? Now, the reason I didn't include a $5,000 camera there is you need to speak to your accountant because capital expenses can't and this is where I want to stop there and not go into the detail. As a general accounting term, capital expenses are usually depreciated. There could be some small business instant asset write-off that you can use at the time in your financial year. But you just need to know ordinarily there's two things happening. You buy stuff for the business, it might be instant asset write-off or it could be depreciated over the years. But that's all you need to know. And that's why we say if you earned $1,000 this month into your little account, and you need to do this from probably day one, any income that comes in, just take 30% off as a starting point, and you need to put $300 in a separate tax account. Out of sight, out of mind.
And this is where I feel people are going to go,
Yeah, and if it's all too hard, and this is why it goes back to the 4 reasons. If this is all too hard, and we just want to attack a goal, go get a second job. Go do overtime. You don't
have to do the admin. You don't have to do all of.
This is more if you are doing something because you want to eventually transition to do it full time, or if you want to do it just because you like doing it. And it's just part of the thing. And that's why we keep it really simple. I will say as well, I touched on it before. I talked about the issue when you're getting your second job. So remember when you go and apply you fill out the tax file number declaration form online with your new employer, they will say, do you want to claim the tax-free threshold? You can only claim that once. So at your current job, the first $18,200 is tax-free. So when we get our second job, you go, no, I don't want to claim the tax-free threshold.
But you need to put money aside?
Well, no, it just means that your second job is likely withholding more tax than you actually need to pay. So at the end of the year, you won't get a tax bill. Yeah. If you are in your ordinary course of work are earning $100K a year, the first $18K, $200 is tax-free. Fine.
Yep.
If we go and get a side hustle, and just to make it really straightforward, and that $100K, the tax rate is 30 plus 2% Medicare levy, 32%, okay? When you go get the second job, and just for simplicity, if you were getting paid $100K from your second job, the employer will be withholding more tax because the first employer is saying, well, we don't need to withhold any tax on the first $18,000 because that's tax-free anyway.
Yep.
So what happens is you're basically taxed at the highest tax rate for your second job.
Yep.
Overtime just stacks on top, but the second job, you will be paid, you'll be withheld the highest tax rate.
Yeah. So this whole thing of, I remember, and again, this could be like outdated. People would say like, oh, your second income gets taxed at 50% or something. That's actually withholding tax.
It's not
You're
tax.
Not paying extra. It's just
They're just withholding it.
Yes.
So if we then draw this again, so the second, basically, if there was $100K of your main job and $100,000 from your side hustle.
Are you saying side hustle or second job?
Second job, rather.
Yep.
Yes. And I'm just going to open tax. I'm just going to do just to really show you a tax calc. So ordinarily, if there was $100K withheld, 100K income, just going up through the normal income scales, there would be 22,788 withheld, right? If you had the 100K from the second job, they have to withhold the highest tax rate.
Yep.
So tax gets paid.
Yeah.
That's the government's priority. So if we did 100,000, and this is basic maths, times 47%, guess what? $47,000 is withheld. So that's 47. So remember, whether it is, and there could be an ABN on the side as well, but we'll ignore that. At the end of the day, because it's your own tax file number, the total income has been 200K. So then at the wash up, we'll do 200K of income. The total tax based on 200K, we'll just round it to $60,000. Now, what's 47 plus 22,788 is 69. You've, in the background, the ATO has withheld 69 or just under 70, for example. There will be probably 10 grand refund to you at the end of the financial year.
That makes sense.
So you've got to look at it when it's a second job or a side hustle with an ABN as a sole trader. It all goes on your own tax return.
Yep.
And at the end of the day, the ATO, they just go, Kayla, what income has come into your life.
Yeah.
They don't care if it's been from you work full-time at Coles, then you do second income pouring beer at night and have an ABN. They don't care. They just go, what's all of the money that this ABN has earned? Less tax. And generally speaking, with the less tax thing, throughout the year, they've got their mitts on that tax so you don't spend it through your employer. Then eventually they will get installments from your ABN.
Yep.
Total income across ABN, less tax equals money.
Yes.
Now, the less tax part, you might get caught out if you haven't put it aside in the first year.
Yep.
And then into the next quarters if you are doing an ABN.
Yep. So the argument that, you get taxed higher for getting a second job.
You don't get taxed higher.
Yeah.
It's withheld.
Am I like weird to think that? Is that
no?
People
a lot
do
of people
say that,
think,
hey?
I don't want to get an extra job because I get taxed more. No, you get same tax the same.
Yeah.
It's just there's a higher amount of tax withheld
Yeah.
until you do your tax return.
Yes.
Then it will be refunded.
Yeah.
Now, an advanced kind of 2.0 thing would be if you did have the 100K job 1 and then 100K job 2, you can actually do a withholding variation form. So if it was a thing that was ongoing and permanent, chat with your accountant. They can tell the ATO effectively to do a ruling or do the numbers. Then you tell your employer, don't withhold this amount, withhold that amount.
Because you can prove or estimate.
Yeah, that's right. So you don't get taxed more from a second income. You get withheld more throughout the year.
Yep.
So that swings back to the pill of swallowing getting the second job. There'll be a less net benefit pay on pay.
Like week on week.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
But then when the wash up's done, it all washes up.
Yeah, okay.
Hey, it's Glen here. Thank you so much for watching today's video. You made it to the end. Can I ask a favor? Can you hit that like button and maybe hit subscribe if you want to get notified when we release further videos just like this one, whether you watch the Money, Money, Money podcast or Retire Right. And remember, if you want to learn more about investing, I've got an investing book, The Quick Start Guide to Investing, and there's a link in the description to get your hands on a copy. Thank you so much. Bye.